Like many of you, when I first saw the trailer for Outriders at last year's E3, I wasn't too impressed. Not to say it looked bad, but the game didn't really come off as anything other than a post-apocalyptic class-based shooter, where you kill often endless and forgettable enemies. Been there, done that. So when I was invited by the developers to have hands-on time with Outriders in LA, I wasn't expecting too much beyond my assumptions. But to my and many others' surprise, what I did play might very well be one of the first breakout hits of the next console generation. Okay, so I get that there's a bit of a hyperbolic statement there, but bear with me for a moment. At its core, Outriders is an RPG shooter. Yes, you gain stronger weapons through RNG-based drops after completing harder challenges. There's a multiplayer element to it, there's specific class abilities and subclasses, and yes, in case you were concerned, you are the lone person tasked with saving humanity, once again. What separates this from the likes of Destiny, Anthem, and The Division is that Outriders is in fact not a game as a service. As the developers said repeatedly at the event, this is the whole package. There are no plans for microtransactions or cosmetic DLC. Of course, outside of possible expansions, but we don't know anything about that yet. There are no loot boxes in the game at all though. It's a traditional RPG that still appeases to that carrot on a stick gear chase that gamers have become so accustomed to with modern shooters. To put it simply, Outriders looks to scratch that itch that gamers get from titles like Destiny and Mass Effect all at once. So you might be thinking, yeah, that's great and all, but how does the game play? Pretty fabulously well, if we're being honest. The shooting feels tight and extremely refined, in addition to the movement never feeling clunky or obtuse when I was diving from cover to cover. If you're familiar with the developer's pedigree with Gears of War, Bulletstorm, and more recently Fortnite, you have a pretty good grasp of the gameplay here. The shooting and abilities felt extremely fun, and there's a real sense of satisfaction when I was able to take out an entire group of enemies by utilizing the strengths of my class abilities, such as the skill that let me teleport behind any enemy and deliver a devastating blow. In my roughly 2-hour demo, I was allowed to play the prologue solo and then do the first few missions with 2 co-op players and experiment a little bit on the game's 3 classes. There's gonna be a 4th one revealed, but they haven't talked about it yet, by the way. Similar to Destiny and Anthem, Outriders lets players choose their own class to spec out with subclasses and special abilities. And while all of these classes have their own abilities and core mechanics that do complement each other, I was assured by the development team that each class can easily stand on its own if you chose to play the game solo. Where Outriders really shines is its flawless integration of multiplayer gameplay without making the game feel too easy or boring. So just to get ahead of everything, there is no PvP in this game, it's only co-op. While the world's difficulty scaled up a little bit, and according to the devs and the few menus I had access to, it seems like I can select harder difficulties which will lead to better loot, obviously, but it never felt like I was going up against hordes of bullet sponges, which if you played Destiny, you would know that that happens all the time. While enemies were definitely more difficult to kill, the trade-off is how well our class abilities complemented each other and made the game feel a bit more strategic and fun. In our Discord chat that we were using at the event, and I think for the first time in a very long time, I actually communicated with my teammates more than just go here, shoot that, and my absolute favorite, oh cool. All that being said though, at the time of the demo, it was still a little bit unclear exactly how the difficulty will scale when dropping into someone's game, but it seems like it's host dependent. So if you're a higher level and you bring a friend that's much weaker, you're gonna have to carry them and vice versa. But when it comes to multiplayer, the abilities and how you can use them together really make the game stand out. While it was really satisfying using the abilities on my own when I was playing by myself, there was just something awesome to setting up my enemies for someone else to come in and deliver the finishing blow. It was actually really fun and strategic. And considering that all 3 classes that we were available to use are very reminiscent of a warrior, a tank, and a mage, this game felt like a real RPG, and I was getting a lot of WoW flashbacks. And because of this, I genuinely wanted to keep playing to try new combinations with different character classes just to see what we can discover. As far as gear goes in the game, we kept picking up a lot of new fresh things, and it was pretty standard. If you played Destiny, if you played Anthem, if you played The Division, you've seen this before, and that's good, because what ain't broke, don't fix it. Also, yes, you can dance, so there you go, cool, have fun with that one. All right, so now that we've kind of touched up on that, let's talk about visuals, because, well, if you didn't know already, this is a next-gen game. Visually, Outriders is in what I think is kind of a strange place. While this might be one of the first next-gen games that is playable by the press, it still has to run on a launch Xbox One, a launch PS4, and whatever PC configuration you have at home. So while the game looked really good in some spots, it didn't look so hot in other places. And when I asked about the specifics of a multi-generational version of the game, I was told to wait for more info down the road. So I'm not going to assume anything, but you can probably assume some things here. Not saying the game looked bad or anything, but there's definitely a discrepancy between the particle effects and character details and the world's textures. What the main difference is between a PS5 and a launch PS4 version has yet to be seen. The art direction, on the other hand, is top notch. And if you're a fan of post-apocalyptic dark fantasy meets future tech, then you'll be happy with Outriders' aesthetic and world. And while the game is really fun, the aesthetic right here I can tell is going to divide some people. But the developers of Outriders pride themselves on releasing a game they consider to be the complete package. Outriders won't have any microtransactions, a battle pass, loot boxes. It will feature a fully fleshed out 20+ hour campaign that will have endgame elements, multiple dialogue options, tons of side quests, and hours of cinematics. So if you're looking for that, that's awesome. And that's why I think that this might be a real contender this holiday. It's easily some of the most fun I've had with a video game this year, and while some people might have an issue with it looking like just another looter shooter service game, I can assure you that's definitely not the case here. So if you're looking for an RPG that can be played solo or with friends and want to try something that's accessible but still incredibly deep for only one price, then Outriders is totally something you need to look forward to. Anyways, you gotta play something on that new console.